our goal has always been to keep the farm and to preserve the farm. So like everything that we do, whether we're branching out into like, hard cider, or we're branching out into bakery products or deli products, it's only done if the net result is preservation of the farm, which is what the whole family, ultimately wants, aunts, uncles, everybody. But when new generations come on, one of the hardest things it's not like there's a salary sitting there waiting for that next generation. Mom and dad still need a salary. The other family members that are there still need to, and none of these businesses are that successful that there's like super thick margins that we can be like, oh, well, let's bring on the next generation and just put them all in management positions. You have to create the revenue that supports your existence on the farm.
Steve.
Ben,
thanks. Thanks for sitting down with me and being able to enjoy this orchard. These are Honeycrisp.
They are.
You said?
Yeah, they're interesting Honeycrisp. These were red delicious trees that I planted with my dad when I was a kid, and then we top worked them over and turned them into Honeycrisp.
Yeah. I think I remember you said that, because I can see there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 different grafts onto this base.
You got it. Yep.
So were these trees originally planted to be trellised?
No, they were planted we were commercial wholesale orchards. Yeah. This is back in like the early 90s. They were central leader, freestanding tree, and the intention of the fruit was to, pack it and ship it out to like grocery stores. This whole orchard that we're sitting in here was mainly 3 varieties: Rome's, Red Delicious, Golden Delicious. And when we got into inviting the public into the orchard, you need a lot more variety. Yeah. And so one of the big things that everybody wants is Honeycrisp, and where are the Honeycrisp? So one of the fastest ways to get a Honeycrisp tree into production is to graft over a different tree. And just because of the spacing and what our marketing goal, honestly, with these apples which is to make them accessible to the public, trellising them and putting them in this V-shaped pattern.
They're like laying down a little bit closer to the ground.
That's
also really cool.
It also helps to slow the tree's growth down and like diffuse them bigger a little bit by making 4 trees out of 1. So so it's
that's really neat.
Yeah.
Well, that is a metaphor for hopefully this conversation with, the legacy of Frecon Farms and Orchard and the Frecon family. And so maybe could you start way back? When did the Frecon family start growing fruit? Farming?
Yeah, so it started in 1944. My grandfather bought the orchard. It was actually already an orchard, and it was both an orchard and Black Angus. So they had cattle. And it was called Boyertown Fruit Farm when he purchased it. My grandfather used to inspect fruit, so he wasn't from this area. He would travel through this area to inspect fruit down at the rail yard in town when they were loading it to ship it. But like many young men with a family, he was on the road traveling like Maine to Georgia. This is before there was an interstate highway system. Yeah. So a lot of long hours on the road, a lot of time away from this young family, and so he decided Boyertown was a big fruit growing region. There used to be orchards all the way down to where like the YMCA is. If you look at old maps from the 30s and the 40s, and you can still see the legacy of it when you drive around. You see like Peach Street, Cherry Street, Apple Street. But there was a big fruit growing industry here, and my grandfather bought into that.
And that was primarily to supply Philadelphia, I guess.
They used to, so when you didn't have such good refrigeration, we didn't really have then to compete with like the West Coast, right? Yeah. So fruit that was grown in Pennsylvania would ship up and down the East Coast. So my grandfather always tells me about selling wine sap apples to Winn-Dixie stores down in Virginia. So Pennsylvania grew a lot of really good peaches and apples. Our season was different than the South. So when the South season was wrapping up, Pennsylvania was shipping down, likewise north. So it was a really, really good business to get into back then.
Could you say then that this area here, the rail, the train system that came right through here and ended only a couple towns up was like facilitating a lot of it? to send it down there at that point, or?
From what I understand, I mean, I obviously wasn't alive back then, but I grew up hearing lots of stories of taking truckloads of fruit in crates down to then hand load them into rail cars.
Yeah.
Like, this was before forklifts and pallets, and my dad said you'd go down and they'd set up skate track and like literally push crates of fruit into these rail cars. So I think, the railroad system, like it was for so many commodities, was heavily used before interstate highways and refrigerated trucks.
Yeah. So that's how he started planting trees, and then, so you're the third generation.
I am, yeah.
And first generation trees, fruit, second generation mostly fruit, but there was starting to be some diversity in the family of other ancillary business ventures, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I think like most farms, we had my grandfather had a very small farm stand where the Jukebox Cafe is. That was where it's funny because there's an old sign that we have in our retail store. It says Frecon Orchard Outlet and Bodie Borneman. Yeah. So in that tiny building that is the Jukebox Cafe sat both our farm market and Bodie Borneman Insurance. Nice. And Bodie Borneman's grown a lot since then, and so have we. But my grandfather's mother, my dad's grandmother, ran that like as a little kind of side thing. It wasn't the primary part of the business. And then my dad and his brother built the first like real retail store in 1968. And then my mom was instrumental in kind of, with my dad, branching that business out and getting more into specialty goods, gourmet foods. A lot of gift baskets was a big thing when I was a kid. Lots of fruit baskets. And then my brother-in-law, Josh, and I, with the help of my brother Hank and other family members, like really dug in and really tried to pursue more the value-added businesses of retailing, hard cider, the U-Pick orchard, bringing people out to the orchard and connecting more with the public. Yeah,
and you guys totally renovated the farm store and modernized it, and it's every time I'm in there, it's hopping.
It was a great decision, and I'm glad we did it. I'd like to say that I'm some like super astute business person that could see that was all going to happen. The one that Josh and I joke about, cookies, which are like one of the primary things that the bakery is known for, they were not part of the original business plan. So, you've got to be, you got to really listen to your customers. Like when you take a gamble like that, you need to listen to your customers a lot. You got to not be afraid to experiment. And then you also have to not be afraid to change course and stop doing things. So there was a lot of stuff that we were originally going to do with that bakery and expansion that just the public and the consumers didn't respond to. And then there's other things that they really did respond to. And so you lean into that stuff. Yeah,
well, you guys have changed the farm store a couple times. I feel like since you even did that initial modernization.
We keep trying, but I think we are officially, according to the township, we are out of space to do anything else there.
But so, you're working on refining the efficiencies and stuff. And it's delicious sandwiches and baked goods, and I see the baked goods around at other places like at Kimberton Whole Foods and stuff like that. So one of the topics that fascinates me and that I feel like is super relevant in agriculture and land management and land succession and real estate and things is that legacy multi-generation succession. And it's not to say that I'm sure that there was family drama and road bumps along the way, speed bumps along the way, but you still are a third generation, and Josh is not even from the family by blood, but he's joining in. So there's something that you guys are doing that I feel like seems to be admirable, that you're able to facilitate multiple generations continuing in the family business. Is there any insight that you have that helps facilitate that?
Yeah, I think the thing, and this is what I've actually had this conversation with one of my neighbors who runs a mechanical company. When you're bringing another generation into the business, we know what our goal is. Our goal has always been to keep the farm and to preserve the farm. So everything that we do, whether we're branching out into hard cider or we're branching out into bakery products or deli products, it's only done if the net result is preservation of the farm, which is what the whole family, ultimately wants. Aunts, uncles, everybody. We have had, of course, different views and perspectives on what is the right way to keep the farm. But when new generations come on, one of the hardest things it's not like there's a salary sitting there waiting for that next generation. Mom and dad still need a salary. The other family members that are there still need to, and none of these businesses are that successful that there's like super thick margins that we can be like, oh, well, let's bring on the next generation and just put them all in management positions. You have to create the revenue that supports your existence on the farm.
Yeah. You got to earn your keep, basically.
My brother and I both had, careers in sales. He still has a career in sales and manages his own software company. And we always use the phrase, we get to eat what we kill. So it's it's a hunting analogy, but it equally applies to business, right? So the reason we went out and joined and got involved in like the community farmers market scene and the local food movement scene, many, many years ago, was because it was the only way that there was going to be income for Josh and I to come back in the business. The business in Boyertown, the little store, and the fruit farm itself there wasn't enough opportunity there that it could make room for us. So we had to start new ventures. But we had to make sure that those new ventures were beneficial to the farm.
Yeah, they had to be profitable. It wasn't just like sapping resources necessarily.
Doing those farmers markets allowed us, again, analogies, all ships rise with the tide, right? So doing those farmers markets gave us more like name recognition. It allowed us the opportunity to sell more of our fruit and products retail. The introduction of the bakery products, now we have, customers who come to us for the bakery products, and if they see an irresistible peach, they're going to buy that peach too. Jumping into the hard cider entity, it's like, well, if we're out there at a community market and we've got hard cider and that draws somebody in, they might also pick up the bakery, and ultimately it all comes back to cover the cost of keeping and maintaining a farm. I always, try to advise when I talk to people who are trying to transition or carry on a family businesses, and I don't mean to be tough on the next generation, but they have to make room for themselves. They have to create a position where they're actually adding value and driving revenue and growth. So they can, and it's someday mom and dad are going to retire, and then you bring in other people and train managers and things like that. But they also have to be equally accountable for the expenses and the costs. And you don't want to shelter that next generation from understanding the finances of the business and the expenses. And they should frankly be if there's loans involved and debt involved, they need to be as scared and concerned about those loans and that debt as the second or first generation are.
Do you feel like you, from being around the small business, the family business setting, growing up, like you had a better sense for it, a better understanding of those things? Like, not that you were like entitled, but that you're like, okay, your mind is just already kind of wired to think about these things because you're sitting around the dinner table listening to conversations about selling products and making products. And
you nailed it with the sitting around the dinner table. So like for us growing up as kids, the school bus would pick us up here at our house in the morning or just down the street from the house. And then we'd take a different bus home that dropped us off at the retail store.
Oh, nice.
So,
That's like, this is the Frecon family program for transportation that the school knows.
You got it.
Like, the kids are not going home, they're going to work.
100%. And, so you'd get dropped off at the retail store and you could sit upstairs as a kid and, do your homework and coloring books and get bored, or you could come downstairs and carry groceries to cars. You could help, fill displays. This was in the days where you still used a physical, price gun. So as little kids, my brothers and my sisters and I, we were, down there at that store, pricing products, stocking shelves, interacting with customers. And then of course, with my dad running the farm and my mom running the retail store, you say like, well, let's not talk about work at home, but that's an impossibility when you have two parents that work together. So, hearing them, go back and forth about like what's going right, what's going wrong, the needs of the retail business versus the needs of the wholesale business were a constant conflict. So you were just kind of immersed in it.
But it seems like it didn't scar you too much. Maybe calloused, but maybe not enough to keep you away.
Yeah, I did. When I was in high school and then college, I swore I was never coming back to do this. And I did. I went away for, I did not major in ag in college. And then after college, I went into IT, like my brother, and went down to Northern Virginia and then New York City for many years. And it was only about 14 years ago that I made the transition back to the farm. The transition began long before I actually physically came back, mainly because we had to look at a scenario where like mom and dad are getting older. Yeah. And if not me, then who, right? So somebody had to step up to decide that they were going to take the business into another generation, or there wasn't going to be a business. Yeah. And one of the things that always concerned me, and I think sometimes will come, it's not that I had a deep and underlying passion for growing peaches and apples. I had a deep and underlying passion for my family's land. Yeah. And peaches and apples and retailing and baking and hard cider, they are a mechanism and a vehicle to keeping the family's land and seeing it, move into another generation. So that transition started with, we were going to do online gift baskets, just like Karah and David. We were going to try to. My brother and I, being in IT, we thought this will just be like.
This will be the e-commerce.
This is going to be it. We're going to be the next Karah and Davids, and everyone will want our gift baskets. And then, we quickly discovered that wasn't going to be the business. But we started developing and working on that stuff while we were still down in Northern Virginia and working day jobs. And again, this is something there are many more hours in a week than 40, as every farmer knows. And I would tell every young business person that if you're not working a 60 to 80 hour week when you're trying to start your business, you're not going to make it. Yeah. Like there are Saturdays and Sundays that can be worked, and there are many hours after 5 o'clock that can be worked, and many hours before 9 o'clock that can be worked. And you can have a full-time day job and still start a business. Yeah. Not during the workday, but in the morning, at night, and on the weekends. Yeah. And that's what it takes, Yeah.
So, I didn't realize that you were just coming back to really working here full time. That was right around the same time that Karah and I were basically starting farming as well. So maybe can you just give a quick roundup of what you guys offer here now? We talked about the farm stand, but how many acres? How many acres of fruit?
Sure. The total farm is a little over 100 acres, 117, I think. Numbers change. In apples, I think right now we have about 50 acres of apples in production. Things are constantly transitioning. Blocks are coming in and out. Roughly around 20 acres of peaches. So those are our two primary crops on the farm. We do grow blueberries. Right now there's an acre of blueberries, and we're planting another 2 acres next spring. I know Pennsylvania is not known for its blueberries, but I think I'm doing a great job with our blueberries. And in this challenging year, they're one of the things that pulled through. So I'm really enjoying growing blueberries lately, and I think we'll do more of that. We do some cherries, a couple acres of that, a couple acres of plums, and just started trying some blackberries this year. UPIC has forced me to try to learn to grow things that I've never grown before, annuals.
Nice,
And my first year using a water wheel planter, thank you, Ben. Now we're growing sunflowers and zinnias as well, which are a big hit with the customers. So that's the ag side of the business. At our retail store, I know it looks like it's a sort of tiny farm stand on the front end, but there is a from scratch commercial bakery on the back end of that business. And years ago, one of the tough things of a seasonal business is the seasonality. You're very busy in the summer, you're very busy in the fall, and then all of a sudden it's like lights out in the winter and the spring. It's hard to keep managers. It's hard to keep full-time employees and your best staff around if you're going to have to lay them off at different periods of the year. So Josh and I, we really wanted to start the bakery again, not because of like a deep passion for baking. It's not that either one of us had any background in baking. I mean, I don't think I ever even baked anything at home.
Yeah.
And nor do I think Josh did.
Yeah.
For us, we looked at it, it's a fresh product.
Yeah.
We can make a fresh product year round as long as we have access to fresh whole ingredients. We toured a lot of bakeries. Fortunately, most small business owners are very kind and will open their doors to help young folks, explore and learn new things. We discovered that a lot of the baking industry is bake-off. It's a lot of frozen product that's pre-made elsewhere. And we felt that our customer base that comes here for the authenticity of like a real farm, real local food, and that if we didn't bake from scratch, starting with like flour, water, sugar, butter, whole ingredients, apples that people can recognize, it'd be a total failure.
And it's going to taste better.
It does. I mean, it ultimately does. Like that's the quality and taste and presentation is like, it's like everything. So
my kids are food snobs, and they are like, it's hard you got to rein them in because they'll spend a lot of money on pies at the farm store and breakfast sandwiches. And
so your kids, I said, thanks.
Yeah.
So the bakery was, again, it goes back to, it was a means to keep the business moving year round and to provide our customers with fresh product when the land couldn't provide fresh product. We can bake fresh bread and pie every day of the week. That then branched us out into, there's phenomenal berries coming out of Pennsylvania in June, and there's phenomenal like vegetables coming out of Pennsylvania all summer long, but then the season ends, right? So today we will take like these June strawberries and we freeze them to make smoothies in the middle of February and March. And we have our choice of using some frozen bagged strawberry that came from lands far away, or we can use local product that we freeze and then hold off site. And that makes a big difference in the product. And so that's branched us out into a whole beverage program of smoothies and teas and coffees. The deli came out of, again, the ability like to make great sandwiches and products with local bread that we bake, produce that we can source locally in season. Like our tomato mozzarella sandwich, as soon as there's no soil grown tomatoes coming out of PA, we're done. Like it comes off the menu. So that is really growing by leaps and bounds. And I mean, it's not like, what's the secret sauce? Quality ingredients, making it fresh daily. It's not rocket
some
science.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
And some of that. Hard cider was one that we jumped into because we had apples, right?
Yeah.
What do we do? How do you add value to all the cull apples that come out of the packing line? We came quickly to discover that you can't just use any apple for making hard cider. So a lot of the stuff that we were growing, Gala, Honeycrisp, it doesn't make good cider.
Oh, really?
No.
Just the flavor's not there.
It's all sugar, So, again, I wish I paid more attention when I was in high school to like biology, if I knew I was going to be fermenting and making alcohol. But, once you learn like the process, once the sugar is converted to alcohol, and a lot of these ultra sweet apples, they're very flavorful front end, right? So that's why like people love a Gala or they love a Honeycrisp, is it's a sugar bomb, and it's all that flavor up front. But once that sugar converts away, there's not much left behind it. Whereas apples like Gold Rush, Granny Smith, Crimson Crisp, some of the heirloom varieties, Stamen Wine Sap, they lack that sugar punch that everybody wants nowadays in an apple, but they make wonderful cider because once that sugar's fermented, you're left with body and other subtle flavors that come through in the cider. So we've planted a lot of acres, trial and failure. I've tried a lot of the heirloom varieties and realized they were incredibly difficult to grow, very prone to disease, very prone to biennial. Pulled those out and replaced them with other apples like acres of Gold Rush that were growing entirely just to make hard cider out of them. So that industry, again, we tried branching out and going through the distribution model, like, trying to sell with like Angry Orchard and the big brands that are out there, and quickly came to realize that there's a scale that's necessary there that we don't really want to be or do. So we're real happy to make our hard cider from apples that come from the orchard and then sell it direct to consumer as much as possible with a little bit of light wholesale.
Yeah, and you have, there's a couple local retailers that have it. And the other thing that you were saying that you're passionate about is just like the labor situation. But first, I guess what I wanted to say is, if anybody's listening, they should look at the video of this, the video recording right now, because we are in these rows of trees that are actually have a pretty significant fruit set.
It's a great crop here.
Great crop of apples, which is the way it should look this time of season. But most orchards in Pennsylvania right now do not look like this.
No, they don't.
Because we had a really warm few weeks and then a crazy, like, how long was it? Below freezing?
We had 4 hours that were between 25 and 20 degrees.
Yeah.
And if that had been in January, February, March, when the buds were tight, no problem. But we were already, you were talking about the warmth. I mean, we had an Easter egg hunt here in the orchard, and it was like 90 degrees, and everybody was so happy and running around shorts and t-shirts, and this is like end of March, early April.
Yeah, the calm before the storm.
I'm just like, I was literally watching fruit buds throughout the day go from tight to pink to white. And, just as a fruit grower, I'm sitting there thinking like, this is a disaster in the making. We are setting up for just an absolute disaster. And then, then it happened. April 21st, they predicted maybe temps that were, the prediction was for temps that were going to be like, 28, 29, which we could have sustained at that stage. We would have had some loss, but not the catastrophic loss that the industry has seen. But it got, we had one recording in one of our orchards that was at 20. Here where we're sitting here, I was like excited because we recorded 26, and I'm amazed that this fruit survived at 26. And then over at the other orchard, I had 24, and like that thermometer was in our cherries, and they were literally, the fruit was already hanging on the tree, the little fruitlets, and by midday they were already black. Yeah. And it's just done.
They were just like, got frozen, freeze dried.
You get one chance a year.
Yeah. So, and that's a very uncommon thing to be that extreme in the spring for apples, at least. Cherries are always a little bit more finicky because they bloom earlier.
That's why we don't grow as many.
And I heard some statistics as high as like 70% or more crop loss on some orchards.
It is so variable based on variety of the tree, which way the orchard face. Like if your orchard face east, you got that, that cold period, that 4 hours that I'm talking about is from 6 a.m., 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. is like, that's the darkest period of the night, right? So if your orchard is facing east, you're going to catch that morning sunlight, and your interval for that cold period is much shorter. Orchards that are on steep slopes and have good drainage, cold air settles, hot air rises, there's higher elevation fruit. And that's where we're sitting right now, is about 600 feet in elevation. And that's why there's fruit here. If we go literally less than 500 feet down the hill, the elevation drop is like 20 feet, and there's an acre of Crimson Chris there with not a piece of fruit on it. So it really, it's very variable on where the orchard's located, the site, the setting, but it shouldn't be like that. I mean, I do unfortunately have friends in the industry who lost 100% of their crop. Cherries, peaches, plums, they all took it the hardest. Apples, are a little bit more durable. So some of the apples pulled through, but as an industry, the Secretary of Agriculture is involved, the USDA is involved. This is a regional disaster. Like historic, that we've never seen before. So what is the fallout of that then for fruit growers, and how do they, the trees themselves are fine? Yes. Yep.
It's not like it killed the trees, but it froze the buds, the flower buds, and therefore it can't produce fruit. So the trees are going to produce again next year. You could have a bumper crop next year. Nobody knows.
We don't know. You would expect to. Like if the trees take a year off, they've had like a year to work on bud development. So
that's crazy to think about.
We should, but No, it's terrifying. I mean, I don't know what other word to use. There's no farm that I know that is like, oh, I have this, massive bank account that I can fall back on and have a year with no fruit. Most of us spend ourselves right up to our credit limit in springtime to get to the point of setting a crop. And then by the time that crop starts to come in, you start, making some revenue, paying down some debt. You get to November, December timeframe, and now there's some cash to maybe invest into some improvements on the farm, machinery and equipment repairs, and then whatever's left goes right back into next year's crop. And that's when I say next year's crop, I mean the employees, the salaries, the insurance, the cost of insurance, the materials that we need to grow. So there are a lot of very exposed farms, financially exposed farms right now in the state of Pennsylvania. Like I said, I would call it a natural disaster. This industry I have spoken to so many growers, old growers, folks like my dad that are like in their late 70s, early 80s. And I've yet to hear somebody say, oh, I remember when this happened. This has never happened before.
Wow.
Never this widespread, never this catastrophic. So what are growers doing? Me, I had an acre of Granny Smith that I plowed up the grass between the trees and I planted sunflowers. I'm going to try to, the public will come to the U-Pick orchard and pick those.
Yeah.
A lot of folks have been, bringing in fruit from other regions and trying to make ends meet, selling that. Some growers carry crop insurance. We do carry crop insurance. It's a Band-Aid. It's not the same. It's not like when you crash your car or lose your house, you don't get replacement value. You get this like national average market price, and it's never, especially if you're in retailing or farm marketing, it's not even close to what
because
you
need these. You're going to take these apples and then turn them into a value-added product in certain ways too.
Absolutely.
But there's not, crop insurance doesn't cover that.
No, it does not. So the exposure, and I think everyone's thinking about the farmers, and they should, and I'm very worried for a lot of these farms. I think there's USDA emergency loans, but my joke to that is every farm already has emergency loans. It was an emergency when the tractor broke down and you had to buy a new one. It was an emergency when the roof came off the barn and you had to replace the roof. Nobody wants another loan.
Yeah.
And that's just going to carry that debt forward into next season's debt, and it's accumulating. So right now, what we're really hoping for as an industry is some help from the federal government and the state government to create that bridge to get our crop insurance claims. You have to go through the whole season to get that claim. They've already released a program where you can try to get your claim in and get compensation early than waiting. So, but yeah, it's going to be, I think the hardest part, which most people don't, and even the growers don't recognize or see yet, is the financial impact of this is not being felt now. So we finished packing our last apples in June. So the crop that we harvest this year, we'll keep in cold storage, and we'll pack those apples all through the winter months into the spring and come right up against those cherries. There is no way with the minimal amount of apples that we have or that the industry has that there's going to be apples to pack in February, March, April. So that means those employees who pack those apples, there's not going to be work for them. They're unfortunately there's going to be layoffs that haven't happened yet.
It's like a rolling disaster.
It is.
It wasn't just 1 4-hour freeze. It was that was just the match that lit the fire.
There's a large Peterson Farms. They're a large supplier of frozen fruits and processed fruits. So a lot of folks who sell, if you grow tart cherries, you sell your tart cherry crop to Peterson Farms, and they make tart cherries for concentrate that's used in things. This hit Michigan too. And so there a letter went out that said there's not going to be any tart cherries available. Like, we're selling 2025's crop now. There is no 2026 crop. So what are we doing in 2027? If you need tart cherries, if you're a person who makes pies or juice that uses Montmorency tart cherry juice, there's going to be a massive shortage of that. So that's where it hit the packing houses, the folks that sell cardboard boxes to the farms. I mean, it's a lot of parts of the industry that are going to be impacted.
Yeah, it's catastrophic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that's maybe less depressing.
Absolutely.
How many employees do you have here?
So the farm has the least amount of employees, like the actual farming end of it. The retail business and the bakery take a lot.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's like one of those things that, it looks like a little farm stand on the side of the road, but I always look at it as how many W-2s did we issue last year? And there was over 110 W-2s issued.
Well, you have all kinds of teams going to markets and stuff too.
You got it. So you've got, we employ everyone from salaried managers, back office people to, teenagers that help us with various things. But on the farming end of things, depending on crop size, our crew will go from like at small scale on the farm, there's about 9 employees here that are here year round. And necessary year-round. It's a perennial crop that we're growing, so there's always work to be done, even in the winter months. And then we scale up to around 24, 30 employees during the peak of harvest and packing season. The packing house crew alone is about 10 employees. Field crew can be anywhere from 10 to 12 employees, and then tractor operators. So.
Yeah, and so on the tractor operator and the field crew, how skilled are those folks? How have they been doing this for a long time, or?
If you've ever seen the hills that we farm on, I think they are very skilled operators.
Especially the tractor.
I would take one of our tractor drivers and send them to anyone's farm and be like, you don't have to worry about this guy because he knows how to run this machine.
Yeah.
No, most of our folks come here, start with us with little experience and are trained on site. There's very little. This farm is, and this year it's a blessing. I mean, the fact that we are surrounded by these apples on these steep, it's because of the steep slopes.
Yeah.
It's nothing special that I did. But the steep slopes are, good for air drainage and stuff. So anyway, we need to train our people here because it's a really unique environment to grow in. But I've got 2 really great tractor operators that are anymore, I can focus on the business and they're hammering down and getting things done for me.
Make the plan and they, that they're going to get it done. Yeah. Do you have a lot of people that are what is the perspective of the up and coming generation of in fruit growing? Is there, I just don't, we've employed a lot of people on the farm in veggie production, and that's very romantic. Is the younger generations, is there a big interest in fruit growing?
It kind of it ebbs and flows, and I would say that the interest, where I find it is when we bring it out in an employee. One of those tractor operators I was just bragging about is a young man who grew up in the area. He's from Ole, Ole Fleetwood area. He started with us on our farmers market team, and I'd like to say I rescued him from the retail store. I saw him standing down there, and I was like, this kid looks so unhappy, inside the store.
Needs some sunshine.
But I was like, I think he looks like the kind of guy that wants to get and get his hands dirty. And Sawyer's been phenomenal. But we taught him all the tractor operation skills and the machinery skills here on the farm.
So you're not finding there's a large pool of skilled fruit growers that you can kind of be like, all right, we need, you can't just replace them that easily.
Not from this country. No.
Yeah.
No. I never ever get a resume or an application from somebody that will find someone like Sawyer and will groom them into into a fruit grower, into an operator. Whereas when I'm interviewing H2A candidates over Zoom, all throughout Mexico, there's farm kids. There are a lot of farm kids who grew up in we brought a young man up this year. He's 25 years old from Puebla, Mexico. He came through the guest worker program, the H2A program, and Jose comes to us coming from a 500-acre ranch where they grew all kinds of vegetables. So he hadn't worked in an orchard before, but the guy has driven many tractors and run many farm implements, and I can throw him on a machine and he knows how to run a plow and plow a field correctly. People are like, well, what's so hard about that? If you've ever plowed a field, it takes some experience. So there's
a way to do it.
There's a way that works.
There's a couple ways to do it, but it's not everybody does it the same way. But there's the wrong way to do it as well. Another gentleman that we hired again through the guest worker program, Julio.
we did a whole irrigation project on the farm. Didn't have irrigation on these 100 plus acres and ran irrigation on 100 plus acres. Julio had done it before. He did it in Mexico.
Really?
So he was showing me how to put pipes together and, how to put the fittings together and the better way of doing it and how to, the best way to put these valves and boxes together. So, it's sad to say, but it's not surprising, but I'm finding my best ag workers that come with experience they're not coming from this country.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a dilemma.
If yo hablo español, so if you teach yourself the language, it's really helpful to work with these folks that are eager to have these jobs and skilled.
And you were telling me before that you're interested or passionate about automation and learning a lot about like the robotics and stuff like that, but it sounded like you do have a little bit of like there's the farmer business person in you is kind of like, it's like the kid on Christmas morning. You want that technology, you want that thing that can increase your efficiency and like give you better crop and give you crop management and all that stuff. But then you also seem like you're wrestling with the replacement of people and the labor as well, like because you want to, I'm just projecting all of these onto you, but like you seem to care about the craft and the mentorship of bringing someone up in the craft of fruit growing, and also the meaningful labor of it as well. There's a beauty to that and a purpose to that, but you also want to run an efficient business and have better profit margins and all those things. So
the intersection is 100% there. I mean, there are things that every fruit grower will brag about, and it's always like, you meet a fruit grower, any farmer, how many acres do you farm, and the size of your harvest, so it's always like, those are the two. I will brag equally about the fact of how many people we employ. It's with great pride that I say we issued 110 W-2s.
More importantly, how many people you employ season after season, because we always have a line out the door who want to work on the farm, but if you can keep them, that's the real magic.
I should clarify, not all 110 of those W-2s are there at the same time. There's a lot of cycling that goes on through there. But no, I mean, we have folks that have been with us now for 10, 15, 20 years. I don't think they would stay here if it was a bad place to work. So I'm really proud to be an employer. I'm super proud to create these jobs. And like everybody, I worry about what those jobs will be and where they'll be in the future. When I look at like the tech side of things, and it's gone from the abstract to where I can actually see it on the farm. There's tech that we're looking at that is vision technology that can identify weeds. I mean, everybody has these, you have weed ID is on your phone, right? It's an app, you know. So now you take that same vision technology and you apply it to a machine that can go up and down the rows of any crop. Rather than like broad spectrum spraying of herbicide, it's like this vision tech can move down the road and say, pepper, 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 dandelion spray, So, or there's the use of lasers, So we're gonna clean up the way we farm. We're gonna lower our cost, so instead of wasting material, spraying bare ground or wasting materials, hitting the wrong target because no human can see these things and process those thoughts that fast. We're going to spend less money on materials. We are going to be running a cleaner and more efficient business. Like I think about the ability for, like, we do our orchard scouting for insects and disease. It's all a person walking around, checking traps, inspecting leaves.
Yeah.
Those are things that eventually, like, a drone will absolutely be able to do.
Yeah.
And identify, like, well, you have mites in this block of the orchard, but you don't have them anywhere else, so there's no reason to spray the whole orchard. We'll just deal with the mites where they are.
Folks don't realize how expensive some sprays are. Like the more advanced and the more environmentally friendly the spray is, typically the more expensive it is.
100%.
And so you don't want to spray any more than that than you need to.
When I look at the tractor and the whole situation, I'm like, well, that material costs this. Diesel fuel's over $5 a gallon. The wear and tear and the wear and tear on the equipment for every hour that the machine is running, it's like a steady march towards death. Brakes, hydraulic lines, etc. The more hours, the more maintenance that we're gonna have, and then the cost of the employee. And can we be doing better things with our time? So with technology, there's an environmental impact, there's a labor impact, there's a financial impact, and I think that like when tech first started hitting the ag industry, everybody was like, "Oh, we'll have all these pickers. We'll replace the picker." The lower.
Yeah, I've seen those videos of the robot at night, like harvesting apples.
It's not even close.
Okay.
And it's not anywhere on the horizon.
So those are just marketing videos.
They're working on it.
Yeah.
They're absolutely working on it. And but we pick apples based on size, color, shape, the texture. So when we pick apples or peaches, we don't just go down the row and pick every piece of fruit.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into the decision process, and then to have the tactile functionality in your hand to handle that piece of fruit all the way from the tree to the bin without creating a bruise. So it can show up at a grocery store as a visually perfect piece of fruit that has a phenomenal flavor with the right sugar levels. Those are just not things that the machines are anywhere close to doing. But what they are very close to doing and are doing is operating the equipment. So I've looked at, there's a company that makes it's like a robotic work platform.
Yeah.
That it's about the size of an RTV.
Yeah, is that the burrow?
The burrow. Yeah. And so nurseries, a nursery that we work with is using that burrow to take rootstocks from the cutting, or like from the greenhouse area, out to the field where they're being transplanted. That used to be done by like an RTV and a tractor operator. That burrow will just make that same loop all day long.
And it doesn't like follow you it can follow, like you have a sensor on you or something, and it'll just follow you around the field as like a mobile work platform. But they also have attachments for it too that can
mower.
It's like literally the RoboVac for the orchard.
It's the Roomba of the orchard. You got it. Every row of the orchard, we mow our rows for a lot of different reasons. All the grass in the orchard is constantly getting cut for a variety. It's not just because it looks nice. There's a lot of good horticultural reasons for keeping your grass clean and weed free in an orchard. It's a full-time job to mow. You mow the whole orchard, and then by the time you finish the orchard, you start over again where you start over again, and you just keep doing that. And that's diesel, that's man hours, that's wear and tear on a piece of equipment. And that is absolutely a job.
It's compaction in the soil too.
Yep, you bet.
With a large piece of equipment that has to transport a human.
Yeah, and it's going to drive the same space every single time.
But a smaller something that is smaller and is running all day and all night potentially is also not going to compact the soil as much, and probably contribute to better soil health. So
I think about it, and I think about it a lot, and I of course, the human in me, I can't the two guys. My two favorite people on the farm, Armando and Sawyer, the guys that I think about all the time. I'm like, these machines are those are the guys that get replaced by these machines, not our harvesters. Now, again, everybody has always worried about that kind of stuff. There's a lot of other work to be done, so I'm not saying that it's going to or will. It's just it's something I worry about and I think about. I'm sure that equipment probably needs maintenance, and there's getting it going and things like that. But no, I'm a huge proponent of the technology entering the orchard or entering farming. Period. I think there is a huge gain in cleaning up our environment just through the reduction of diesel fuel usage, through the just being smarter in the way that we do things, the management decisions that can be made. It's very hard for me to get over 117 acres every single day. Things get away from me, and next thing I know, I have a disease outbreak in an area that I was trying to get there yesterday, but then something broke. So 2-3 days goes by and I haven't been out to check on the zinnias to see if they need water, So a lot of that technology can help in that decision making and help us grow better, more efficient crops.
It's really, it doesn't even necessarily have to replace a human. It can just amplify the efficacy of each human that's already working. And give them more tools and knowledge and data so that they can, and it, at the end of the day, the longevity of any farm probably boils down to the longevity of the farmer and the farmer's mind.
Yeah.
And their ability to like keep their head in the game and even just be happy and have satisfaction of the yield of their labor.
Yeah.
And if that can empower you to be more on site, like we've all, as a farmer, everybody knows the feeling of, every farmer knows the feeling of just feeling like, I just put out that fire over there, and I feel like that's in really good shape now, but now there's something over here, and it's like, and then you just get in this like death spiral.
Absolutely.
Of like, and it usually happens around now in the middle of July and continues till like the beginning of September. That you just, that's not fun. That's not great. And if there's, you don't want to have to be always behind the game, behind the 8 ball with like managing the zinnias or the disease or whatever. And so if there's ways that you can be fed information and data ahead of time, then you can just have you can enjoy the labor of what you're doing and have a more sustainable farm business in the first place.
I feel like so many times we're averting disaster by like the skin of our teeth, right? Like I come across a machine that's about to have a catastrophic breakdown just because I happen to walk by the operator using it, right?
How's that even happen?
I don't want to be lucky.
Yeah.
I want to be good. I like, luck is not what I want. I don't want to hope that things go well. I want to have good strategy.
Yeah.
I want to be out in front of things. I want to have it like calm and productive without being in a panic. And I think a lot of that technology, I mean, they said the same thing about the computer when it came around in the 70s, that we would have all this free time. So I don't know, but I can actually see, when I look at the tech now, I can see where there's benefits to the business.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's also maybe empowering or enabling you or any individual to maybe not have more free time, but have more time to do the things that you individually enjoy and that are fulfilling to you and that you want to be working on. And the things that you don't want to do or don't enjoy, you can automate or outsource to technology. And that also, maybe doesn't have to be you just delegating it to the lowest man on the totem pole too.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about that I thought, we had a conversation a couple years ago that I thought was fascinating, and I wondered if you could expand upon, is as an East Coast fruit grower, a large portion of the genetics, this is my understanding, a large portion of the genetics are for apples or fruit crops are developed on the West Coast.
More and more so, yeah.
But they also sometimes will restrict the sale of those genetics to East Coast fruit growers and keep them on the West Coast to bolster the West Coast market with the newest and the best and the sweetest. And then after they've been harvesting those for a couple of years, then you can start buying them.
Yes.
Is that right?
You perfect. Well said. That's exactly correct.
That's crazy.
So most of our fruits and vegetables came out of land-grant university. Like I always like to explain to people, like none of this stuff was growing wild. It's not like anybody walked in the woods someday and found a Honeycrisp tree. That's not how it works. It's all through plant breeding and development to come up with these different, the cotton candy grape, right? Cuties is a type of clementine, right? Marketed as cutie. There are researchers and developers out there every day that are cranking away to test and develop new fruits and vegetables that the human is going to want and to desire. Most of that work was done by our land-grant universities many, many years ago. My uncle used to be a fruit researcher for Rutgers University, and his job was to test new peach varieties. And then when those new peach varieties, when he'd find the good ones and discard the bad ones, then he'd work with nurseries who would give that peach a name and then market it to growers like me who would plant it in their orchards. And, that's why you find like everybody growing Honeycrisp and, everybody growing, Granny Smith or the Red Haven peach. Those were open releases, right? They were open to any grower who wanted to try to grow them. And then you really had to put your chops for it as a grower, and, you know, people would find like, well, I like my Honeycrisp from this guy, not that guy, because that guy does a better job. Strawberry is the same thing.
And they were also not necessarily patented genetics at that time either.
Correct.
So you could take a cutting and graft it and reproduce it on your own as well.
Yep. And what's happened is that breeding has moved into the private sector, right? So the philosophy or the idea behind it now is kind of like, well, we developed the iPhone, so only we should be allowed to sell it, right? Like, why would we do all this research and development to create the iPhone and then release it to every phone company who wants to sell the iPhone? It's our product, right?
Yeah.
So that same approach has been applied towards our food now. There are varieties like, whether it's Sugar Bee, Cosmic Crisp, there's peach and nectarine varieties that I'm not allowed to grow. I cannot get the license to them. I'm legally not allowed to propagate them. So like Cosmic Crisp Apple is the one that I'll use. It is for Washington State growers only. You have to be a grower in Washington State to grow it. And then it can only be packed, marketed, and sold through a marketing agency. Jeez. So, you know, when you see like these apples like Sugar Bee that are out on the grocery store shelf now, they're only grown by licensed growers, and then they can only be like packaged and sold through a licensed packing house. So like, you can't plant Sugar Bee in a U-pick orchard and have it. I don't know, there was just a huge, I'm sure everybody saw it because everyone's watching what's going on in the nectarine industry in California, like me.
Oh, yeah, no.
There's a grower who just, I want to say it was 40 tons of a white nectarine he gave away.
I did see that.
So he got into a dispute with his marketing agency that is the only agency allowed to market and sell this nectarine. So this guy grows it, and he has to then provide it to this packing house. And I don't know what's behind the dispute. So it could be what they're paying him for his, like, you know, if you're in one of these arrangements, you are only going to get what the packer is willing to pay you for that fruit. So you're a price taker, not a maker. And so maybe he had fed up with what he was getting paid for that fruit, but he elected to take 40 tons of white nectarines and give them away to the public rather than send them through his packer.
I read an article about, was that in Fruit Grower magazine or something?
Fruit Grower News,
and they were just, people were just, the general public just coming out and just like taking home bushels of nectarines. And so I was like, man, that's badass.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like, I get it. I get it from the perspective of a business perspective. Like, you're a private company who has hired private scientists to do private research on land that you own, and you developed a new variety of fruit or vegetable. So therefore you want the right to license it and market it only through your agency. And so I get that, and I do understand that. It scares me in that it creates a huge situations of the haves and the have-nots, right? Like, there is no private fruit and research development that has like Frecon Farms on their, like, you know, horizon line going like, as soon as we develop this nectarine, we want Steve Frecon to grow it. Yeah. Like, all of us small growers will be boxed out of those programs perpetually. They're going to license those to the big 1,000-acre, 10,000-acre farms on the West Coast that can produce it in mass, provide it in mass to the packers so it can be provided in mass to the retailers. So it's a scary situation to be like, well, what will happen in the future? What new varieties will be developed and be available to those of us? It also creates a scary scenario of, like, one of the things that my uncle was always very big on was the genetic diversity of the fruit that he was growing, to make sure that it had, you know, the Irish potato famine. Everybody was growing the same type of potato. Right? And then so you get a virus or a fungus that attacks that one type of potato and you have a famine, right? We need diversity, genetic diversity in our food system. If every apple that gets created from here on out has Honeycrisp as the parent, and something happens, it comes along and there's a blight or a virus that just attacks apples that have the genetic background of Honeycrisp.
Some latent genetic that just happens to be in there that nobody noticed.
We have a disaster on our hands.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little scary for me to see that all this stuff moving into the private sector. And like when folks like my uncle retired from the land grant universities, they're not replacing those systems. Like the breeding programs, you know, in the university system are dwindling.
Yeah.
Whereas as the global population grows and we have more people to feed, I would think that there should be public interest in our food system and the improvement of our food system through the breeding of disease resistance, drought tolerant. You know, the climate is changing despite what anyone wants to say or argue about it. Those of us who live in it every day can see it and feel it. We need things on the horizon line that just don't have a lot of sugar, but are resilient to the environment that we're growing in. And so
and the thing that genetic diversity is extremely important, but also just backing up to the genetic like exclusivity, like that these companies are breeding and then keeping it within their purview and only letting certain growers and only letting certain marketers market the crop. I don't think that general consumers know that.
No,
I don't think that anyone would realize that that's happening. They would just assume that like if whatever apple they pick off the shelf at whatever fancy flowery named apple at Costco, they just think that, well, Steve could grow that apple too. Why doesn't he grow that apple? And I'm sure you probably have people asking you
all
like, where's this or that or the other thing, and you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's especially like where we're at now, which is our U-Pick orchard that is open to the public. You know, it is, you know, constant, like I'll keep referencing Cosmic Crisp and Sugar Bee. Those are the two that have been the most successful through this privatization of apples. And so there's constantly folks that are asking me like, do you have Sugar Bee? Do you have Cosmic Crisp? And you know, my staff doesn't even know. They don't understand.
You just need like a little pamphlet. Be like, read this.
Yeah, I can't. And I'll be
like,
honest.
Steve, he's old man Steve. He's always talking about government conspiracies.
You know, I want to be part of these programs, and I was successful at getting into one of them. We grow Snapdragon, which is a wonderful apple, and it fills a niche at the right time of the season. That's part of the problem too, is like there's been a lot of development in early season and late season apples, and like Red Delicious, which you harvest in the middle along with Empire, is dying. You know, so it's like what are we harvesting in the middle and end of September and early October?
Consumer demand is going down for it. Yeah.
So anyway, I got into the Snapdragon program, but I have restrictions. I literally planted the last trees that I am legally allowed to plant this year. They will not. So the program will not sell me any more trees, and I'm only allowed to retail that apple. I can't wholesale it, so I can't sell it to our wholesale customers or the schools that we distribute apples to.
And what happens if one of those trees dies?
So, in theory, I pay when we plant. We paid for the tree. Then I pay a royalty on the root stock that the tree grows on, because that was developed by Cornell University, and they have a royalty on it. Then I pay annually into a marketing agency, which
because they're promoting the name.
Because they're promoting the name, and they own the brand Snapdragon.
Jeez.
So in order to use the brand, I have to pay into that annual marketing agency, and that's it's on a per tree basis.
Oh my goodness.
So in theory, what I'm supposed to do is go out and count the trees and know how many trees I have in the ground, and then my fee is based on that and make adjustments. Well, trees do die, and I lack the time to count them.
Okay.
So right now we're planting about 1,950 trees to the acre, and I have I think I have 3 acres of Snapdragon planted. So I guess I should go out and do some counting.
Yeah, that could be a good margin of error there.
Yeah, but there's definitely a few trees that have, died, and I'm still paying for them. So yeah, it's a lot to manage.
Yeah, and that's, well, the other thing is that you mentioned is that density too. Like you said, these trees, when you planted these, they were on a much lower density.
Yeah.
And then you grafted multiple fruiting, what's it called?
Scaffolds.
Scaffolds,
yeah.
Onto that, and created a more dense canopy here that has trellising, but then the new plantings are on even tighter trellising. Right. That's just basically a wall of green, and but that's a great efficiency where land is really expensive, right? So
And they're not making more of it.
They're
It's
not
finite.
making more of it. And you already have all your systems and like, infrastructure here. So it only makes sense for you to make more of the land that you have, make more efficient use of it. And so over the last few years, you've been actually bulldozing significant amount of trees that are older trees and probably in the tail end of their life cycle anyways, and planting new. But the new ones that you're planting are pretty much all high density trellised.
Yeah.
Much closer together than this too.
Yeah, this is like what we're sitting in right now is like, actually it's quite a waste. And I've thought about it. If these trees weren't, if the trunk system wasn't the age that it is, which is almost the same age I am, so I consider it old for a fruit tree. I would put another row right down here where we're sitting, because we can operate in a 10-foot space and harvest fruit efficiently in a 10-foot space, and we've got about 20 feet between these two rows.
So you're saying that you probably are going to get rid of these trees in the near future and just replace them with all of the spacing that you would prefer?
Three rows below us, and it's always funny. I wonder if the trees know, if they can see the replacement.
You're slowly moving up the hill, like, the neighbors got murdered last winter.
That's right. So three years, 3 rows below us here is a new planting of Honeycrisp. It's a royal red Honeycrisp. It's a red strain of Honeycrisp. It'll be almost like 90% red. Those are planted they're planted at 2 feet by 11 feet, so 11 feet between the rows, and 2 feet to 18 inches between the trees.
Jeez.
And the reason those trees were planted is to replace these trees. So this was an economic and a marketing decision. It's not the best use of the land. This was done because our U-pick customers wanted Honeycrisp. The site selection was picked because in travel studying fruit, the best Honeycrisp they're pulling shade cloth over top of them. They get sunburn. So I picked a spot that had natural cooling. We've got woods on 3 sides of us here, so it's really nice, and it's higher elevation, so that's going to give us better color and better fruit development. But I knew the spacing was too wide, so we did everything that we could to maximize the space here. But then now planted the new acre of Honeycrisp right below it, with the intention of when they come into production,
then these will
go.
Be put to rest.
I'm sorry, trees.
What is planned for this? What do you have planned for this area then? This question is another thing that people don't realize about fruit growing, is like you're not thinking in seasons. You're thinking in like years, if not decades.
25-year cycles. Yeah, 20 to 25 years is like, and it's like I'll ask my dad. He's always the best at this. Like, I'll ask my dad, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And at 78, he's like, I don't know, and I don't really care, because I won't be here when this happens.
Nice.
He's not. I mean, he says it like
I need some advice here.
But it is. It's a long horizon line. So I have trees ordered 3 years out from now. I have root stocks ordered 3 years out. So for the next 3 years, I know what roots I'm planting, and then the nursery will call me and ask me, what scion, what variety I want on top of that tree about a year before, and then we get that tree, and then we're going to grow it for 3 to 4 years before we actually produce fruit on it. So trees.
That's like a 6 to 7 years. You need to be planning 6 to 7 years ahead. Which is like, if you're thinking about like zooming out and thinking about consumer trends and the taste of like, and then let alone you not even having access to the ones that are like being super heavily marketed. It's
a guessing game.
It's
and a lot of it is you do need to know your land, so like we have a lot of diversity, heavy clay soils, high elevations, wet spots, dry spots. So you really have to have an intimate relationship with your soils to know what's going to grow, and then pick the right root stock for those soils. So a lot of it is the decisions I have to make, like this spot here. I mean, you can see the rocky, clayey texture of the soil. I can't grow peaches here. They don't like this soil. So it's going to have to be another apple, but it's going to have 2 years of cover cropping in between. So I like sorghum a lot. So we'll use a lot of sorghum to build up our organic matter in between that rotation cycle. But most of the time, like, you don't want to follow peaches, stone fruits with stone fruits. So if I'm taking out cherries, apples are going to follow in that space. What variety, who knows? If we're taking out, apples, typically we're going to want to follow that up with peaches or a stone fruit. That's what the crop rotation looks like in an orchard. Flowers, we've discovered, because of the being open to the public, using the zinnias and sunflowers and things like that is a great opportunity to put the land into rest from fruit trees, but still derive revenue out of it. So
that is definitely a skill, to be able to think ahead that many years in advance, and I don't envy it.
You gotta, I'm never embarrassed to admit my mistakes and failures, and it's costing us $20,000-$30,000 to plant an acre of fruit trees right now, between the trees, the irrigation, the trellising, the labor, all of it. And in my short 14 years here full time and as the manager, I've already torn out acres of trees that I've planted, because I took a gamble on some pears, and they did not bear fruit. After 7 years of waiting, they just kept failing and failing and failing. And I was like, well, this is not going to work. So we can't keep, wasting the land, maintaining the tree. Tear them out, start over again. Something else.
I don't think that most people think of an orchard as that dynamic of kind of like a system. It's kind of just like you plant the trees and then they get big and you grow and you harvest fruit. But in order to be an actual productive business, you have to be cycling in and out of trees, because the trees do have a kind of a productive life cycle.
Especially,
they don't last forever.
No, and especially peach trees. Peach trees' favorite things to do is die. That's what a peach tree loves, to die quicker than any other tree. And
that's like the sheep of the fruit world. That's what everybody says about sheep.
That you plant them, they look great when they're young, and then as soon as they come into production, they're like, I'm just going to die. And a lot of times you're like, why did this tree collapse? And you're trying to figure it out. And there's always a myriad of reasons, and sometimes you don't even know why. But it's a constant. Every tree is the thousands and thousands of trees here, every one of them is individually cared for. Individually pruned, individually fertilized, individually maintained, harvested, and then the cycle trained. The cycle starts over again.
So where can people find your products? What farmers markets are you at?
So we have at the Bryn Mawr Farmers Market. I think we've been there for over 20 years. It's been a great long-term relationship. Rittenhouse Square on Saturdays, the Saturday Rittenhouse Market. And then, of course, our retail store here in Boyertown. I'll leave you with a teaser on that. We are in process, and hopefully coming soon, a second retail store. We're really excited about that. Like I mentioned, we ran out of space here in Boyertown. We need some more room to grow. So we've been working on this for a while.
You gotta share the love with the new locale.
I'm very pumped about it. Once we get some contracts signed, I'll be more than happy to release all the details. But we're in the final stages of the design of the building and the site and the financial arrangements for that. So that's going to be a I can't even wrap my head yet around the changes that's going to bring to the business. And then, of course, we are very focused on retail and our brand and having a presence with the public, but we are wholesalers still at our core. I always tell people we sell about 1% of our apple crop retail, and the rest of it is sold wholesale.
I didn't realize that.
And we have great relationships with like Kimberton Whole Foods. Kimberton carries our apples, our peaches, our blueberries, our bakery products, hopefully soon to be with this expansion that we're going to do, our deli products. They're a wonderful partner. The Common Market, Seashore Fruit and Vegetable Company, Four Seasons Produce, Landis Supermarkets, a lot of local farm stands. So we've got a lot of great relationships with like Barry Davis Produce and Maple Acres. That they're great small farm stands. They focus on peach or tomatoes and corn. That's what they grow. They like to buy our peaches, berries, and have those on stock. So we've got a truck on the road just about every day of the week delivering fruit somewhere, or folks picking up. And then The one I'm most proud of, and it gets no attention at all, is the relationship we have with the public school system.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
I love, trust me, as a fruit grower, I love growing big, beautiful, fancy pieces of fruit that show well on a grocery store shelf, but that's what everybody is trying to do. I love nothing more than getting that email from the food service manager at like Souderton School District or Reading Area School District, Great Valley, who tells me that the kids are just like gaga over the apples, that they're actually picking them. Like it's not even being forced upon them.
Yeah.
The children are choosing to pick an apple up because it tastes good.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like the longevity of the business, is if you can introduce kids to fresh fruits and when you're a high school kid or a college kid, a lot of your dietary habits are pretty well set in stone, and so you get told that you're obese or you have a heart issue, and then you change your habits.
Yeah.
To see these young kids choosing fresh fruits and vegetables, and to see the school system working with local farms to make sure that the kids have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, the distributors like the Common Market, like Seashore Fruit and Vegetable Company, who put a lot of effort into those programs, hats off to them, and we're really proud to be a partner.
Yeah, and they're much more fresh.
Absolutely.
Than like if you're some Washington grown apple that's been in storage for 10 months or something.
It's even like the school year when it starts in August. Unfortunately, it won't be this case this year, but when the school year starts in August, typically those kids are getting peaches, which is like, such a unique thing to get peaches.
I don't think I ever got peaches.
Fresh
peaches at school.
I can say I've never had a peach in the cafeteria when I was in school. So maybe the ones in the syrup in the little white cup or something like that. But to see that not only the schools, we've been doing it for so many years now, that it doesn't feel to me anymore that it is like hey, let's try this out and see if we can get kids to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. It's being like woven into the fabric of the school nutrition program. So I love that, and I love when the schools, will actually like mark it and say where the fruit came from, and then I'll bump into those kids here on the weekend. It's just super cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's a great place to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Cool.